Our top story, Israeli forces have stepped up their attack across Gaza as the war in West Asia enters its 200th day. With the newest and more intensified attacks on Gaza, fears continue to mount of an Israeli invasion in the overcrowded southern part of the besieged Gaza Strip, amid calls for hostages to be freed. Now, according to reports, the Israeli army carried out intense shelling of Gaza City overnight, with the military saying it also struck Hamas positions in southern Gaza. Loud explosions were heard in southwest Gaza and Khan Yunis, while strikes hit the Bur and Nusayrat refugee camps in central Gaza. The report further adds that Israeli military has ordered fresh evacuations in the north of the enclave, warning civilians that they are in a quote-unquote dangerous combat zone. The warning was reiterated in a post by the Israeli army spokesperson urging civilians of 4 zones in Beit Lahia on Gaza's northern edge to move to shelter in 2 designated areas. He says the military will work with extreme force against militant infrastructure and subversive elements in the region. Meanwhile, Lebanon's Iran-backed Hezbollah group has launched its deepest attack inside Israel since Gaza war began. The militant group says it launched dozens of rockets at northern Israel in response to the killing of 2 civilians in a strike blamed on Israel in Lebanon's south. In addition, Hezbollah's ally Hamas, in a televised speech marking 200 days of the war, said Israel has achieved none of its goals since it launched its war on Gaza. The militant group has also called for an escalation of war in all fronts. Hamas's spokesperson Abu Ubaidah from the Al-Qassam brigades made a public declaration to escalate the war across the Gaza Strip. On the other hand, back in Tel Aviv, public pressure continues to mount on Prime Minister Netanyahu's government to strike a truce deal to secure the release of the remaining hostages. Families and supporters of Israeli hostages held in Gaza protested in Tel Aviv, sitting on the ground with their hands bound and mouths sealed, conveying one message: 200 days and nothing has changed.
Today is the 200th day that we have hostages kidnapped. People, babies, women, old people, soldiers were kidnapped 200 days ago. My brother-in-law is back there in Gaza, and with 132 more people, it's too much. It needs to be end. We need to have our peace, and the families need to have peace, and this country need to have peace.
And to know more about the reported plans for an operation in Rafah, our correspondent Jody Cohen sends us this report. Take a look.
So the Israeli army is reportedly preparing to target the 4,000 to 5,000 Hamas operatives in Rafah. That's Hamas's final stronghold and where some of the hostages are thought to being held. Remember, British Foreign Secretary David Cameron had suggested that if the hostage talks fail, the international community should prepare for a Rafah operation in terms of preparing aid and shelter for civilians. Now, Israel has said that the plan is to coordinate with the United States, Egypt and other Arab allies to evacuate civilians from Rafah, and it's thought that civilians would go to a secure zone being set up in nearby Khan Yunis. Now, satellite images appear to show large-scale tents being set up to provide shelter, food and medical facilities for civilians there. It looks like we could either see a hostage release deal or further fighting, but we're not hearing of any progress in hostage talks, and President Biden has said that the ball is in Hamas's court and it's up to Hamas to agree to a ceasefire deal.
For all the latest news, download the WION app and subscribe to our YouTube channel.